Hello everyone, RVer Frank here with Kathee and Coco. We're on a road trip in the Flair to Bishop, California. I want to provide some info on the 12-mile stretch ahead in this video and some Flair performance updates. In this video, we begin our trip on Highway 395 at the Inyo County line just before Pearsonville at 2,500 feet elevation, with a continual climb through Owens Valley towards Bishop at 4,100 feet elevation. It is late April, around noon, 80 degrees out, heading north with a 15 mile per hour northeast wind with gusts to 25 miles per hour. Now this is a very scenic drive on the eastern side of the High Sierra mountain range, beginning on the left, and the Naval Weapons Center at China Lake on the right. Since 1968, I've been traveling and exploring Owens Valley and the outdoor activities in this area has to offer, such as fishing, shooting, hiking, off-road motorcycles, four-wheeling, and camping. I will provide some points of interest ahead and my experiences. Here are some Flair performance updates. While towing the Saturn Vue, I can now appreciate the performance benefits of the cold air intake modifications to the Flair, enabling the V10 engine to pull noticeably better going up in altitude by requiring less downshifts, while pulling the long grades without being in the tow haul mode. I expect I will see improvement in gas mileage and will do a mileage update video. Also with the crosswinds, the cheap handling fix to the front and rear torsion bars really makes the Flair handle much more stable with virtually no sway. As you will see during this drive, the RV does not sway in the crosswinds, and there is no wind wash effect from big rigs. I want to produce a travelogue of this segment of Highway 395 for others and for those who may be familiar with this beautiful area and have memories like I do of it while traveling out in these parts. So I'm not going to do any kind of time lapse on this video, so while watching, feel free to fast forward, although you may miss some points of interest I talk about. So join me as I put on some music and sit back and enjoy the ride ahead. Oh, and along the way I will bring attention to some of those points of interest which lay ahead that bring back fond memories. Up ahead is 9 Mile Canyon Road. This is a turnoff left to Kenny Meadows. As we recall, this is about a 6 to 7% grade back into the high country, and is the last opportunity to cross over the Sierras to Kernville. I used to go up there in the late 70s and early 80s, four-wheeling and motorcycle trail riding, and you could actually single track across the many meadows and stream crossings. The Kenny Meadows General Store still shows outdoor movies during the summer weekends, sells gas, and is a great place to hang out after a ride. Back in the 70s and 80s, across the highway at the Kenny Meadows turnoff was the site of the Pearsonville sawmill, which is completely gone now. That sawmill processed lumber brought down from the Kenny Meadows Plateau. There were white-knuckle encounters with logging trucks on that 9 Mile Canyon Road. That sawmill was a lifesaver back then when we were four-wheeling in the Chimney Peak area up there, and someone along with us hit a Jeep and broke their transmission. It was going to need a tow back home to Orange County. I had a tow vehicle and a tow bar, since I had towed my Jeep up there with my '74 Dodge van, so I wound up being elected to help. I chained my tow bar to the broken Jeep front bumper and headed down the steep grade of the 9 Mile Canyon Road, coming upon logging trucks, which of course, I was on the side of the road which dropped off. No guardrails, 1,000 feet straight down. Talk about a white knuckler. I finally got the broken Jeep down to Pearsonville sawmill, and I asked the foreman if I could borrow their welder, a cutting torch, and some scrap metal to fabricate and install a tow bar attachment point on the Jeep to get it home. After a very long day, we all headed back on the 4-hour drive back home. Me towing the broken Jeep, my buddy drove my Jeep back home. Just thinking about that gets me stressed. So let's listen to some more music and take in the view ahead. We're approaching Little Lake, which is a ghost town now at the top of its climb, which was a stop and rest point I used to go before the highway improvements and roadside rest stops were put in around the 80s. Some interesting history. Little Lake was established largely as a traveler stop along what eventually became US 395. After the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power dammed the site's landmark lake, once known as Owens Little Lake. While early on the town had a store, auto repair shop, and gas station, its most famous landmark was its namesake, rock-faced hotel constructed in 1923. Little Lake was a necessary stop for travelers going up the eastern Sierras from LA for decades. In the 20s, a trip from LA to a town such as Lone Pine might take 2 or 3 days, necessitating a stay at locations like Little Lake before continuing onward. In the 40s, sportsman traffic heading northward along 395 considered Little Lake an important stop to get gas. Of course, as technology improved, travelers no longer needed to stop as often for rest and supplies. By the 80s, you could easily travel from LA to locations in the eastern Sierra with little more than brief stops for gas. With these improvements, small settlements like Little Lake became increasingly obsolete. In the early 60s, 395 was improved and realigned. As a result, the former alignment that Little Lake was built on became a frontage road known as Little Lake Road, and the need to access it by leaving the new 395 ruined the business. Around 1981, Southern Pacific's Jawbone branch that passed Little Lake was abandoned and the rails eventually torn up. Little Lake Hotel burned in 1989 and was never reopened, though it served as a private residence for a while. In 1997, the United States Postal Service ended service at Little Lake. Today, though, it remains marked as a location in numerous maps. Most of the site had been cleared, bulldozed, by the summer of 2001, with the exception of the decaying remnants of the former post office. So for those of you that stuck it out through this video, we want to thank you for watching and hope you found it interesting. Although our destination for camping this trip is Bishop, we plan to do some day cruising over the next week up as far as Mammoth Lakes and other points of interest along the way. Safe travels, and see you soon.